But here's the thing. He not only has all that, but he went in from 1 deal a month to 12 deals a month in 12 months. You want to know how to do that? Well, this is the guy.
I have created this business, this machine that buys and sells houses, produces income, and churns out deals all day long, and I'm not doing it. We weren't designed as humans, I don't think, to look forward to Friday afternoon, be happy for 2 days, and then you can't enjoy Sunday because all you can think about is you have to get up on Monday morning, right? You should be willing to make close to nothing or even nothing in the beginning if you know that long term it's going to lead to huge success.
What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Chris Naugle, and welcome back to the show. I am really excited for today's guest because he's a seven-figure real estate investor. He's got one of the top coaching and masterminds out there. He's also an author. He's spoken with people like Gary Vaynerchuk and Russell Brunson. He's got all the accreditations that you want to hear from. But here's the thing. He not only has all that, but he went in from 1 deal a month to 12 deals a month in 12 months. You want to know how to do that? Well, this is the guy. Mike, welcome to the show.
Chris, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. I'm stoked.
Me too, man. So why don't we just start by telling everybody a little bit about like what life's like today for Mike Simmons, and then let's take a trip back in history and talk about what it was like in corporate America. Folks, just so you all know, we were kind of talking offline about like, you know, the world of corporate America and working in that. And we were saying, you know, I don't think we could ever go back to it. Not, you know, that's cliche, but I just don't think we are employable. And if even if they hired us, they would hate us. We would be the worst employees ever. Yeah. So let's talk about where you're at, but then let's go back to when we were actually employable.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So life today, I always tell people life today, my worst day is better than the best day, 10, 12 years ago when I was working in corporate. So today, I live life on my own terms, and I know that's really cliche, but it's a real thing. And I'll give you an example, right? Everybody talks about the miracle morning, and, I get up and I know you were just talking offline that you were basically working at 5 a.m.
Correct.
Well, here's the deal, guys. When you work for yourself, I have learned my rhythm. I know when I'm productive, I know when I'm not productive, and I know how I work best. And here's how I work best. I wake up around 8:30. My wife and I have coffee for about 2 hours. We sit and talk. We hang out. By 10:30, I'm starting to get around. I told my assistant I never want a meeting before 11. And so 11 is when I really kind of the tires, hit the road. And I work hard, and I'm most productive between 11 and 5. I take a few hours break to have dinner with my wife, hang out, regroup a little bit. I go back to work around 6. I work till 8. My wife and I hang out in the evening, and then I work sometimes from 10 till midnight. That's just how my body works. That's how I like doing it. I'm not productive in the morning. I'm frankly angry. And when I worked in corporate, I was not fun to be around when I had to get there at 7 a.m. and start working. So my day is on my own terms. Like I said, I get started around 11. I have a real estate business. That's a 7-figure business. But here's the best part about it. I have created this business, this machine that buys and sells houses, produces income, and churns out deals all day long, and I'm not doing it. I spend probably between 1 and 2 hours a week on my business, and that includes a half an hour company-wide meeting that we have every Thursday, right? So really around an hour and a half to an hour maybe in the week, and so. And it just cranks it out, and it could be done. And I'm mostly a wholesaler. Like I don't flip houses. I sold all my rentals last year. I sold all of them. Right. So we're doing wholesaling, and wholesaling is very active, very active. The minute you stop buying houses, your business is done. Right. And so people say, oh, I want to have rentals or whatever, because I want it to be passive. You can't get much more passive than an hour a week. Like that's pretty good. And honestly, if I wanted to not work for a month, they don't need me in that hour. I just put my nose in because I feel like I should know what's going on, right? So that's my real estate business. And because I had all this free time, I started a lending business about a year ago. And so I'm lending to folks who do what I do and who flip houses. And so that's taking up a little bit more of my time because that's sort of in the building phase. And as an entrepreneur, most of us love building. I love building. I always tell people I'm good at building rockets and launching them. I'm not good at maintaining them once they're in orbit. So I need to build companies, surround myself with good people, put them in a position to win, and let them do their thing. And then I go on to the next rocket that I want to build. That's really how my world is now.
Oh, I share a lot. That's just the dreamer, right? The visionary. We're good at launching a rocket, but then after that, we're kind of like, all right, who can take this and figure this thing out? And then you're off to the next. And I loved your story on how you were doing all the real estate stuff, but then you transitioned to then being the bank. One of my mentors, now one of my dear friends and business partners, said to me, gosh, 2014, he said, the ultimate in real estate is being the bank. And I never understood that, but you just described your path was very similar. And then now you've got the mastermind and the coaching, but let's take a trip back in time. Let's get in that DeLorean and go back to corporate days when you were miserable, 7 a.m. in the morning. You didn't have that free time, 2-hour coffee break with your wife, and then the ability to tell your assistant that no meetings before 11. What was that like? And then how did you break from that? Too many people get stuck in that because if they got a pension, they got a 401k. Oh my God, I can't give up the health benefits. They trap you. It's like putting hooks in you. Every benefit they give you is just another hook that keeps you stuck in a reality you don't want. Many of you listening, you know what we're talking about. Mike was there, but he was one of the few that got those hooks out. So how'd you do it?
You know what? A lot of people are there. And here's the reality. I was born an entrepreneur, but I think that some people are born entrepreneurs, but it's sort of like this sleeper cell inside of them. They don't even know it. Like they go to work. I told myself that, I can get up at 7. I can be productive. I know that as a person, I've taken a lot of personality tests because I hire a lot of people. And so I utilize those tests to kind of help me with the hiring process and all that. I've taken enough of those tests to know that I am not an organized person. I'm not good with details. That's just not my world. But I worked in an environment where I had to get up early. And I had to be very detail oriented. And I was like a square peg in a round hole. And so, like I said, I'm not joking. Like I wasn't a pleasant guy to be around in the morning. I wasn't the person you want to walk up to and say, hey, buddy, how's your morning going? I just didn't want to talk in the morning. And I was stuck in a job that had me working hours that weren't great for me and in doing something that I wasn't really designed to do. I was sort of trying to get it done. And I was successful. Like, most people would look at me from the outside and go, he's got a nice house and he looks like he's making pretty good money. And all that was true, but it was soul sucking. And a lot of people can identify with this. I know a lot of people feel like they're being soul sucked. The difference was I got to a point where I got sick of complaining about my job, but not doing anything about it. And that's where it gets very hard to make that transition, because most people say when they find out that they're miserable in their job, they're already in their maybe late 20s or in their 30s. They probably have kids. They're probably married. They probably have a mortgage and a house payment and a dog and all this stuff. And they feel like, well, I'm too far down the road. It's too late. And I went down that path for a long time until I finally said, I can't do this the rest of my life because I'm not even a fun person to be around. I'm not the best dad. I'm not the best husband. I'm just not a happy person. And it's no life. We weren't designed as humans, I don't think, to look forward to Friday afternoon, be happy for 2 days, and then you can't enjoy Sunday because all you can think about is you have to get up on Monday morning, right? And so it ruins Sundays. And for me, when it wasn't football season, there was nothing good on Sunday for me. I just was worried that I had to wake up the next day. And I did that for so long, man. And then it finally dawned on me, like, I need to do something to get my money working for me. I knew I needed to invest. I knew that, like just the word invest. And so my thought was, hey, stock market, day trading, like maybe I should look at some stocks and go the whole Warren Buffett route. And what I realized was I don't have a long attention span. I'm not detail oriented, and stocks bore the heck out of me. And so I would be online, like trying to figure out how to invest in stocks. And next thing you know, I'm on, ESPN.com, and I'm just wasting too much time reading about sports. And it wasn't until I Googled investing, and you scroll far enough, you'll finally get to real estate. And real estate piqued my interest big time. And I started off like a lot of people, reading success stories, living vicariously through other people's success, until I started going to meetups locally and kind of getting myself involved. But here's something that I didn't talk about for years. And I think I should have talked about it because I think this is the most identifiable human aspect of my entire story. It was 2003. And I decided, because I had been researching real estate, I had been going to real estate meetups, I had been going to conferences, and I said, you know what? That's it. I want to be a real estate investor. I want to invest in real estate. I love it. I'm excited about it. I've learned about it. Stake in the sand. Like, I planted my flag and said, I'm a real estate investor going forward. That's what I want to do. 2003. 2008, I bought my first deal. I did my first deal, right? 5 years, I procrastinated. I put it off. I made excuses. And all it was fear. And I think that people are afraid of usually one of three things, or maybe all three things. They're afraid of losing money. They're afraid of wasting time. And they're afraid of losing a reputation or looking bad, right? Like looking stupid. For me, it was mostly reputation. I worked in an industry, the automotive industry, which is great because it produces all the cars we love, but it's full of really cynical people. It really is. And I had some good friends there, but the industry in general is very difficult to be in. It's not a fun environment. And people they will never let you forget if you do something and look stupid. Like, you will hear about it the rest of your career. And so I was really afraid of just messing up, like declaring to everyone, hey, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to be a real estate investor and I can do this. And then, a couple years later, I don't do it. And they're like, hey man, how's that going? Right. And they would rip me all the time. And so I just let that fear stop me. I wasn't afraid of losing money where most people are. I have a lot of risk tolerance when it comes to money. Time, I wasn't so much worried about. I was fine with that. I didn't want to look stupid. I didn't want to fall on my face. And here's the reality too. I had kids that were starting to get to an age where they knew what I was doing. They were aware of me and what I'm up to. And to be perfectly honest and be perfectly vulnerable, I was afraid of failing in front of them, because if I failed in front of my kids, who am I to tell them to chase their dreams? Who am I to tell them to not settle in life? Because I didn't, and it failed, right? Like, it made me feel like I had to succeed, and that pressure scared the hell out of me. And I didn't do anything for a long time. But here's the deal. My dad was a Marine. He didn't allow fear in my house, that's for sure. If you were afraid of something, you were going to get exposure therapy. And he didn't know what exposure therapy meant. He just knew my boys are not going to be afraid of things. And so at some point in that 5-year period, I had to be honest with myself. I was really disgusted and said, dude, you're telling, and by the way, I didn't tell anybody I want to be a real estate investor, not even my wife. I kept it up in my head. And so as long as it was in my head, no one knew I was failing. And so it was easy. It's easy to fail when you have no accountability. And so I was failing every single day until I finally got disgusted with myself and said, I can't keep doing this. I'm starting to feel worse about my fear and my inability to take action than I do about going to work. Like, I need to fix this, or I'm going to be unhappy the rest of my life. And that's really what it was. I finally took the plunge and I made an offer on a house, and I got it. I got the house. First one I made an offer on, and the deal fell through. The bank went out of business. It was a local bank. It was a small little bank. And this was 2008, right? So we know what was happening to financial institutions. And they went out of business. I lost $1,000 earnest money. It was huge. That was devastating for me. 6 months later, I got my next deal under contract. It was the same footprint house, the exact same style in the same neighborhood, just a few doors down. And I got it for half of the price that I was going to pay originally. So, silver lining is I would have lost a ton of money in that first house, because the market was going down so fast in that area that it was sort of like somebody was looking out for me, a little guardian angel, because I would have lost money. And for me back then, to lose any amount of money was too much. I didn't have it. So the silver lining and the good news at the end of the story is I made 15 grand on that second one that I got under contract, and that launched everything. And my wife was my partner. She's very financially responsible. Let's just say that. She's a little bit tight with money. And if that had not gone well, that first deal, I don't know if we'd be talking right now. It would have been a serious marital issue for me to go on if I would have lost money. So thank God we made money, and the rest was history.
It's really cool. I'm reading a book right now called The Wealthy Gardener, and there's a section in there, and it's about money and it's about real estate. But there's a section in there where this young boy named Jimmy, who works at this vineyard for the guy, the wealthy gardener. And the wealthy gardener was very kind of, just very wise. So he didn't say a lot, and he's just asking Jimmy, so what are you going to do? What are your goals? And Jimmy says, I want to be a realtor. And then the wealthy gardener says, what does your boss say? Because his boss was the GM for the vineyard. And he says, there's no way that'll work. There's no way I'll compete. There's no way I'll be able to, do sales. I'm not a salesman. And he said, what do you think? And this Jimmy says, well, I think I'll succeed because I have nothing to lose and I want to succeed. And therefore I'm going to succeed. And the wealthy gardener just says to me, says, once you figure out the what, the how just follows along. It's almost like a dog on a leash, right? If you figure the what out, the how just comes along with it. So you figured your what out. It took you way too long, but actually it might've been a blessing, because imagine having gotten into real estate at that uprise, all the way up to '08. You luckily got in '08 when it was going down. So you actually were able to capture that recovery period. And that probably helped catapult. But, everything in life, folks, is just figuring out your what. Mike just had to figure that out. He was in a comfortable place. A bunch of people would have bastardized him if he didn't succeed. His wife probably would have as well. But because of that one success, which was imminent, everything else was a catapult. So
totally. And if you really want to torture yourself, and then I did this because I was going to be giving a presentation to at a conference. And so I thought, I'm going to do this exercise and see how it turns out, because I want to make a point to the audience. And so I applied the last 5 years of my business, a conservative estimate of what I left on the table by sitting around for 5 years and waiting to get started. And not my best 5 years, but like take those 5 years, understand there would have been a ramp up time no matter what, right? But if I just had started earlier, how much more money would I have made at this point? It was $3.1 million, like real money that I left on the table by getting started. And that's tough to swallow. And it's sort of like it's just self-torture a little bit to look at that. But I want people to understand, you not getting started there's an opportunity cost. Like it's not, it is not a victimless crime. There's a victim, and it's you, it's your bank account, it's your family's legacy, it's your kids' legacy. It's all that, right? You're putting all that at risk by sitting around and doing nothing. And I did. That's the only regret. I didn't start sooner, right? And you can't sit around and worry about that. You just gotta bust it while you can. So I started late in life. Too bad. I got some making up to do. That's how my brain works. And we talked before we jumped on here, like you said, my brain is constantly feeling like I'm behind with wealth generation. Even though I'm doing great, 7 figures, I've been doing it for years, I still have this thing that gets me up in the morning, that makes me go to work. And I started at 11, but hey, I don't end till 8 and sometimes midnight, right? So my clock has just shifted, but I always feel like I have to work harder, work faster, get more done. I'm behind. That's just how I operate. And I think it's healthy, honestly. I think that it's a little bit of self-competitiveness. And I think competition, even with yourself, is absolutely healthy. Complacency, that's the scary thing. When you feel complacent, that's when you're kind of slowly dying.
Well, another big thing that I think, all real estate investors or entrepreneurs for that much, we reach a certain level of success and then we just keep pushing more, but your element of what you're pushing on has changed. And now you're just helping a lot of other people solve the problems that you had when you were working in the automobile industry, trying to find a way to justify your what. And it took you all that time. And now you get a chance to actually help people through coaching, through books, and through a mastermind to actually make that path a lot faster, so they don't lose out on $3.1 million in lost revenue because they sat on the couch wonder what that would be like. But the other thing too, I want to go back to is you got that first deal done, and you made 15 grand. How did you start to transition that back up? Because a lot of people are going to hear that and they're going to say it was only 15 grand. Back then, maybe that was enough to get a deal, but today there's no way, because the average median house is 350 grand and they look at the markets and clearly they have a lot to learn, but they always put the emphasis on the how, which is, I'm going to keep going back to you figure the what out, the how figures or follows you, but the how is, well, where's the money going to come from? Was that a part of your concern when you were first getting into this? Were you always concerned about, oh my God, where am I going to get the money to do this?
Yeah. It's funny. One of the reasons why I started a lending company was because when I started in '08, a lot of conversation for investors that I knew and that I was hanging out with, a lot of the conversation was about where to find money, where to get money. And then you fast forward 2021, when I started my business, my real estate lending business, the same conversations were happening, right? Because I coach a lot of people. I talk to a lot of investors at various stages of building their business. And money is always at the forefront of the conversation. Either I need more money, I need cheaper money, I need, money in general. I don't know where to find it, right? For new people. So yes, it was a concern for me back then, but I'll be honest with you. Really what it felt like to me when I did that first deal, I made mistakes. I didn't make sure all the subcontractors were paid. And so I had a couple of mechanical liens put on my property because the general contractor basically fell off the face of the earth after I paid him and he didn't pay off the subs. And there was lots of lessons learned. I still made money. But once I did that first one and I got the money in my account, it was very much like, and I tell people this, if you want to be successful in business, we've kind of joked about, being afraid of not like I'm constantly being push because I feel like I'm behind. But if you don't feel a sense of urgency about starting or growing your business, you're in trouble. And for me, it felt very much like I had been metaphorically had my head held under the water my whole life. I had been underwater without being able to get oxygen. I did that first deal. I swear to you, this isn't hyperbole. I'm not exaggerating. I did that first deal and it was like finally someone let me out from under the water and I took a full breath of oxygen and it was like, holy crap, this is what I was meant to do. I feel alive all of a sudden. And I was like a monster. I was making offers like crazy. I couldn't get enough deals. Now, your question was I concerned about money? I should have been more concerned, but I had this attitude of like, I'll find it. Like, I'll figure it out. Once I knew, and maybe to put it in a less constructive terms, once I got that drug, I was not going to not have that drug. And the drug was real estate. And I wanted to do more. And so, yeah, I found what I did was I was really lucky. I had someone in my life who was a mentor to me who said, listen, and this was 08, 09, Facebook business pages were kind of a new thing. And he was like, here's what you should do. Document everything you're doing, video document, show the house before, show it after, show yourself walking through it, talking about what you're going to do, how much money you think you're going to make. Just do that. Just put it out there to the world. And me and my wife did that. And within a short amount of time, we had people calling us, investors, people that we sort of loosely knew, kind of were in the same meetups that we were in, saying, hey, we want to fund your next deal. Like, we want to be involved with you guys. And before I knew it, I had more private money available to me than I had houses that I could buy. And so I spent the early part of my business kind of top heavy with money. And back then it was easy to get deals too, right? So imagine I had so much money available that I was struggling to keep up with the amount of deals. And back then this was a side hustle. I had a day job still, right? So I was trying to balance all of that. And I didn't know what I didn't know. You mentioned like 08 was a great time, right? It's so much easier. Well, I didn't know that. I just knew that I was trying to get more deals and I was reinventing the wheel. Like I was very inefficient. I wasn't running a good business. What I was running was a very popular, very active lemonade stand at the end of my driveway, right? Like that's how I was running it. Like I was grabbing money and putting it in a bank and I didn't know. And like I was running out of sugar for the lemonade and I didn't even know I was running. Like I didn't know what was going on. I was all over the place. I was horrible, right? I had never run a business before. And that's when I was doing, on average, about one deal a month. After a couple of years, I kind of was cranking up. I quit my job. I was able to do that, but I just didn't know what I was doing. And I've given presentations and I have this chart that I show, this graph, and it shows my earnings and my trajectory for the first 4 or 5 years that I was in business. And it was like slowly going up, like the slow kind of boring, steady pace that would have taken years to get to anything significant. And then at some point, I hit a point where it goes almost straight up. Right. And so obviously when I'm giving this presentation, the question is, what happened there? I don't care what you did back here. I don't care necessarily what you're doing now. I want to know what this rapid exponential growth period, how did that happen? And the way it happened was, and this is not unique, and everyone should listen closely. I sought help. I was seeking out people who were way more successful than me to try to find out what they did. I wanted to just walk in other people's footprints. I don't need to blaze my own path necessarily. Business isn't always ultra creative. A lot of times it's just like, hey, figure out what everyone else has done and just emulate that. You should be able to get similar results. And so I found a guy who was a mentor to me. He was in a mastermind. It's called 7-Figure Flipping. I'm an owner of the mastermind now. I'm one of like 5 people who own the company. But I found this guy and he was way more successful than me. And he was about where I was where he was 4 years earlier. So 4 years earlier, he was kind of sitting in the same kind of business I was, and he had ramped up to this multi-million-dollar business. And I said, his name's Andy. I said, Andy, what did you do to get from where I am to where you are? The good, the bad, the ugly. What didn't work? What did work? And he spent probably over the course of 2 months, he spent about 4 or 5 hours going over what he did and telling me exactly the steps he took. And when he was done, because of my personality is insanely impatient, I always want things to be done sooner. And I said, and he's very patient. And I said, Andy, this took you 4 years to go from me to you, 4 years. And you were learning as you went, right? You had nobody helping you. Shouldn't I be able to do this in a year? It took you 4, but I already know what you did right and wrong. Like, shouldn't I be able to shortcut that? And he said, yeah, probably. I don't see why not. And that's what I did. I implemented everything he said, and I wasn't a yeah butter. And if you don't know what a yeah butter is, and I know you do, Chris, somebody asks you a question. Hey, Chris, you're a successful guy, and I need help, man. I'm trying to get going here. What do I do? Like, here's my situation. What do you think I should do? And you go, well, if I were you, I would do this and this and this. And they go, yeah, but in my market, that doesn't work. Yeah, but I tried that already. It doesn't work. Yeah, they're yeah butters. Everything you tell them, yeah, but is their first things out of their mouth. I wasn't a yeah butter. Andy said, jump. I was already in the air. I was already there, right? And so me and my partner were able to ramp up in 12 months. And we went from doing about 1 deal a month to doing between 10 and 15 consistently every single month. And we ramped up to $1 million, not in revenue, because nobody really cares about revenue, right? We care about profits. We ramped up to $1 million in gross profits in less than 12 months by simply following a roadmap that somebody else gave us who knew more than we did. And I always say, and I think I coined this term, I've never heard it before unless it was Inception. I'm just repeating something. But I like using other people's hindsight as my foresight, right? They say hindsight's 20/20. Use that as your foresight. There's a lot of hindsight that you can tap into. And I tapped into Andy's hindsight, and I use that as my guide, as my foresight, and magic was made. And so you don't have to be insanely creative. Just find someone who's done it and listen to them. Don't second guess everything they say. Trust them. If you believe that they're successful and you believe that they have the company you want, implement it. Execution is king. It's king. It's not even information. Information is ubiquitous. Information's everywhere. It's execution that people lack.
Always.
And it's because they're afraid.
Always. There's a lot to unpack in there, folks. And I want you to pay attention to one thing. Remember when he was talking about the money? Because this is a big roadblock for lots of people, is this money thing. He could have never, he got to the point very quickly where he had more money than he had deals, literally just money flowing at him all over. And all he did is documented that one deal. He documented start to finish, showed it on some social media. I mean, today, this is back in 2008. He didn't have hardly the opportunities that you do today. Because today there's how many different sites, right? You could put it up on them all. But the one thing I want you to be very crystal clear about what he said there, he documented the deal. You can't get the money if you don't have the deal. If you got the deal, even if it's not closed, he did that, but you might be thinking, yeah, but, and, I used to coach a snowboard team, and I had the national riders that I coached, they were notorious for saying, yeah, but. I came up with this thing. I said, do you know what a yeah, but is? Well, what do you mean, Mr. Naugle? Do you know what a yeah, but is? It's a little 3-eyed creature in the woods. So we're not going to talk yeah, buts anymore. But anyway, you gotta realize that you're never going to find the money if you don't find the deal first. When you find the deal, the money will appear, the money will present itself. Nobody's going to trust your idea until your idea is implemented and in motion. And then after that, just document it so that you actually have proof that you're the one to do this. I'm a lender, and we run Private Money Club, which is a lending community of peer-to-peer. And I will tell you, in there, all the lenders, they want to see somebody that has taken action. They want to see somebody that has a proven track history. I don't care if it's one deal. There's a young kid that just came in. He had this deal and he offered 15% because he didn't have the experience, but he had the proven concept and he had the right proposal, and he got funded in 3 days, folks. So don't tell me you are any different.
Totally.
You're the same as he is. You're the same as Mike was. Just get it done.
I'll tell you what, too, this is big. You just mentioned it. You alluded to it. This guy he offered out 15% because he didn't have the experience. When I first started, I was doing 50-50 splits with my lenders. Now, I would never do that now, but I did what I had to do to secure the money, make my lender feel comfortable, and get to a point where I could change terms or I could find other more, desirable money lending agreements. But, some people go, 50-50, I'm not going to give away 50%. That's crazy. Well, how many deals have you done? None. Guess what? 100% of nothing is nothing, right? 50% of something is something. So do what you have to do, right? If you have to give 15%, do it. The great thing about real estate is it will support a 15% interest rate. 100%. It will. It's not optimal, but it will support it. You will make money, and do it until you don't have to anymore.
And write this down, folks. If you're driving, just try to remember this and replay this. Cost is only an issue in the absence of value. Cost is only an issue in the absence of value. I speak from stages all over the country. And one of the things I do on every stage is I do an example. Have everybody in the room show their hands if they've got money in 401ks, self-directed IRAs, or equity in their homes. So half the room has their hand up. And then I say, with theirs, anybody in this room need any money? Raise two hands. And then now you've got the lenders and you got the borrowers. And then I begin the process of saying, who in here is willing to pay 10%? And then I go to 12, and then I go to 15. And slowly those two hands start to come down. And usually there's either one or two people that when I get to 18% still have their hands up. And I say to all the people that put their hands down, I say, did you realize that was the stupidest decision you ever made to put your hands down? Because it doesn't matter if you paid 24, 29% on that money. If the deal supports that, you're in the money. It's all about how you calculate the deal and how you pencil it. But yet too many people think that the number is that's their cutoff. They've got this defined number. The number could be as much as you want, depending on the deal. So cost is only an issue in the absence of value. Don't ever forget that. And Mike, one other cool thing that I wanted to bring up in there is, we speak at a lot of masterminds. You have a mastermind. I have a mastermind. We're surrounded around all these people. Now, all the stories that we've ever heard on all these wildly successful, some 6, some 7, some 9-figure real estate investors at these masterminds, I will tell you this, most all of them, their first deal, they gave away a lot of the profit on that deal. Yeah. I know one of the guys, he's now probably worth $60-70 million. Most of you would be like, oh my God, that's incredible. He didn't start there. His very first deal, he couldn't find money. He went to a guy, the only guy that really believed in him. And he gave 90% of his deal up just to get that first deal funded. He has since then done thousands of deals, hotels, motels. And now he's just pretty much a lender and doing well. But think about that. Would you be willing to give up 90% of all the money that you make on the deal just to get it done? Because he did. And it worked pretty well for him. Mike, how many people like that?
A lot. And I'll tell you, all the people that I know that are successful and have been for any length of time, right? Handful of years or more, all of them think long term. They do not necessarily care what it takes in the short term. Right? People in digital marketing know this. They have this loss, this lead loss that they're put out there, some sort of a product, and it costs them more to advertise it than it does. But they know that eventually that's a customer that's going to end up making way more in the end. Real estate entrepreneurs the same way. You should be willing to make close to nothing or even nothing in the beginning if you know that long term it's going to lead to huge success, and it will. I gave up half I don't even know what the interest rate, the equivalent interest rate. I was giving up 50% of my deals. That's more than 20%. It's probably more than 30%. I was giving up a ton, and I didn't care because I knew I needed that to get the experience, to build the cash reserves so that I didn't have to pay that anymore. I could start dictating terms a little more when I had a little more leverage. But if you're not, unsuccessful people or people who are afraid, they think in short terms. They're very transactional. What are I going to make on this particular deal? And they've rarely succeed
spent
long
the money
term.
before they even make it. They've already got something that they're going to, we don't even have time today to go down that
Dude,
rabbit
I know
hole.
so many people in my market that they've been investors for years and they're struggling. And I know what they do. They go out, they flip a house, they make 20 grand, and they go out and buy some ATV or something stupid, a boat. And they're poor and they don't have money to even market anymore. They spend their marketing budget on toys, and then they don't know why they can't build a business. It's because you're so concerned with immediate gratification that you'll never be successful.
Let me go one step further on this. It's such an important thing, folks. 2014 was a really tough year. I had lost everything again for the second time, technically third time, but we'll call it the second time in my life. And I know I talked about this on your podcast, but in that period, I was spiraling down and down and down. And I ponied up $5,000 to go to a mastermind with this guy named Greg. And I went there and I remember being so lost, being surrounded by all these people that were like multimillionaires, thinking I just did not belong. And I said to Greg, I need the best advice you can give me. And he puts his hand on my shoulder, leans into me, and he says, Chris, I'm going to give you the best advice I could give anyone, and it's all yours. And he says to me, give your best stuff away for free. First off, I wanted to slap him or punch him or do something like that. Cause I'm like, dude, really? I just spent $5,000 to come to your mastermind, and that's the best advice you got for me? Dude, how did you get where you are? If that's what you're telling people, like nobody wants to hear that. It was the best advice I ever got. You were just talking about a lot of people have loss leaders. They just do things because they give them away for free. I mean, like books. I mean, you're an author. I'm an author. I got 3 books. Every one of these books, folks, cost me money every month to give these books out there. We give these books away for free. And people are like, well, that's stupid. No. It's the smartest thing ever, because the long game is the game you all should be playing. Building wealth is a marathon. It's not a sprint. These books, when people read them, it plants a seed in their mind, which then turns into something for us later. It might be 2, 3, 5 years down the line, but I gave that away because that's what you're supposed to do. Trainings, YouTube, all the things that we do, we give it away for free because we understand the long game, folks. Even like with the infinite banking stuff that we do that I talked about on your show, like people don't realize we give up 90% of our commission. We literally work for nickels and dimes, but we figured out that working for nickel and dimes, when you have thousands and thousands of people that you're solving problems for, adds up to lots of zeros. So you just got to understand, folks, if you're just chasing tomorrow's paycheck, what's the rest of your life going to look like? You're going to burn out. You're going to be broke, and you're going to feel rich. And then all of a sudden you're going to be poor. It's spelled out in Robert Kiyosaki's books, through every book. When you think you're rich, you're actually poor. Don't be poor, be wealthy. So let's transition a little bit. I want to get into, just in the sake of time, I want to get into your book. I want to get into why did you write a book? Books are a pain in the ass. They take a lot of time. They're very expensive. And you make no money on them. So I want to talk about what your sole goal was there, and why coaching. Like you make all this money in real estate. Why spend hours and hours coaching people?
It's a great question. And listen, books are not only a pain in the butt and they take a long time, they're expensive. But I said it earlier, I've taken so many personality profiles just to try them out. Every one of them says the exact same thing. I am tenaciously driven. I am incredibly impatient to a fault, and I have no sense of detail or the ability to sit and focus very long, right? So writing a book, and I did write it. Nobody wrote it for me. So it's very tedious. Here's why I did it. I told you, I give these presentations. I talk to people. I'm online. I do stuff where I talk about this time period, this very small time period where things just exploded. And everyone asks, what did you do? What happened? And honestly, I got a little tired of answering the same question over and over again. I thought I should put this in a book. And like you said, just give it away. When people ask, go, boom, here you go. And honestly, I don't want to explain it to somebody who's not really going to take the time to like really read it and understand. And so I'd rather give them a book and go, here you go. This is more than I could tell you in the next 5 minutes. Sure. So I did that for that reason. Why do I coach? 2 reasons. When I am, you may not be able to tell this from this interview or maybe from my podcast or whatever, I'm an introvert. I am. I don't necessarily enjoy mixing and mingling and going to events and things like, it's not like in my nature to do that for fun. And so when I started in real estate, all I knew to do was go to meetups. That's the only way I knew to get information. And I would sit there quietly in the corner and I would write things down, and I had questions, but I was reluctant to ask because remember what stopped me in the first place? I didn't want to look stupid. Right? I have this desire to not look like a fool. And so I would sit at these meetups and I wouldn't ask questions. I would never raise my hand. I would never go to someone who I thought could help me and ask them because I thought my questions were dumb. And so I coach for 2 reasons, to be perfectly transparent. Number 1, I truly want to help people who don't know where to get the information or don't necessarily want to go to some meet and mingle every Thursday evening after work because it's just not what they like doing. They want the information and they're impatient and they want to get it curated by someone who knows what they're talking about. Boom, here you go. Here's the information and here's what you need to know. That's one reason. The other reason is, I'll be perfectly frank, and I know you can identify with this. I told you I like to build. I love to build rockets and launch them. When you coach people in their business, you kind of get to be in the co-pilot seat of that rocket. You get to help them build it, watch it launch, and you're not necessarily there for all of the maintenance down the road and years down the road, right? That's up to them to maintain their own rocket. But it allows me to help other people build rockets and launch them. And that's just fun for me. I love building businesses. And honestly, I love watching people who have previously struggled or got to a point where they just like, I don't know. I'm on a hamster wheel. I'm doing a few deals here and there. I have no idea, because by the way, what gets you to the point that you're doing a deal or two here and there will not get you to doing 10. It's not the same process. It's a totally different thing. And I love opening their eyes to that and freeing them up from that hamster wheel and showing them they can make way more and work less. It's possible, and it's very attainable, and it's a repeatable thing. I can implement a lot of the same things I did and that I've helped other people do. And man, it's just fun to watch businesses get built in front of you. It just is. Now, if somebody came in and said, hey, I want you to be my COO. I want you to hire, manage, and train. I want you to track my metrics for years. I would be like, my head would explode. I'd rather die than do that, right? But if you say, hey, help us launch this thing, let's add some rocket fuel and get it off the ground, and then we'll be good. I love that. I'll do that all day long. It excites me. I get excited to help these guys.
I can relate so much, but I'm going to speak on a different level. Is, I used to be a pro snowboarder, and as a pro snowboarder, it's you and the obstacles, you and the mountain, and that's it. There's nobody else. And you get this feeling when you succeed, when you win a contest, when you nail an awesome video part. Like, there was this awesome feeling. And then, my career ended. I overshot a jump out at Mammoth, California. And just like that, the career that was my entire existence, everything I dreamt, was right there in my hands in just one event, one overshot jump on a nice sunny bluebird day, ended it. And then all of a sudden I went into a period of depression, and I was doing different things. I had done a couple of real estate deals. I was a financial advisor, but that wasn't my passion. My passion was snowboarding, and it was taken from me. It took me about a year, and a guy calls me up and he says, hey, we want you to coach this national team. Instantly, I got angry and I said, I'm not a coach. I'm a rider. I still had that arrogance. And then all of a sudden I started thinking about it. I'm like, all right, well, I could coach these kids, and I didn't have any kids. So I was kind of like, all right, well, I coach these kids and get paid for it. It gets me on the hill again. Fine, I'll do it. Let me just fast forward, folks. I did this for 6 years. And one of the things that I never could have ever told you 6 years ago was that it was the most rewarding thing I ever did. It was the most rewarding thing when I'm coaching these kids, these national athletes, and I see them get on the podium and win first, second, third, whatever they were. The feeling I got standing down in the crowd as the coach when my athletes got up there was so much more significant than anything I ever felt in a professional snowboarding career, winning, getting video parts, any of that stuff. None of that even leveled up to half of the feeling I had when my athletes got up there. Mike, you just described that. And the one thing I can tell every one of you is, if you just focus on your goals, and you just live in that little box, you're missing so much of what life's about. When you get out of that box and you start helping other people, launching them, getting whatever your capabilities are, launch, or maybe you are the COO. Once you get in that realm where you're helping other people get those things that you maybe used to have or you've dreamt about, the joy in that is so much greater than anything you'll ever realize from your successes. We're I don't know, you can believe in an ultimate, universal power or God or whatever you want, but we're not here for us. We're here to solve other people's problems, to do greater things for other people. And when you do that, folks, I'll tell you something that'll happen. Everything in your life will catapult. Your finances, your well-being, your existence will become greater than it is today. And all you did is stop giving a shit about you and started caring about others. There's such an important thing. And you mentioned that. So that's the reason I had to tell that story, because as a rider, I never, ever could have dreamt of such a thing. And now some of those athletes, like one of them went on to be an Olympic athlete. Another one now he's a young kid and he is crushing it. And I see his Instagram. I mean, just the joy. I'm not even a coach anymore, but just the joy of seeing these athletes were just little kids where they're at today. I just get all jazzed up about it. And I'm sure you get the same feeling when you see your students that, go through your coaching and, everything else. And now all of a sudden they become the next 7 figures. You don't feel jealous. Oh, wow, he's making more than me. No, you're like, yeah, dude, get it.
Totally. Yeah, I got some folks that are crushing it. Somebody who just comes to mind because they a husband and wife team that I coached from. They didn't know the first thing about real estate. Now they're sending me syndication deals to invest in their apartment buildings that they're buying. It's like, man, these guys are just killing it, and it is fun. It's so much fun. And the tie together of the book and why do I do this program? The program is really an intensive workshop that sprung from the book, right? It's like people read the book and it's like, that's good. That's great. But now what about my specific situation? Like so I created something that would give people literally no excuse to not be successful. Just no excuse.
Yeah. Well, so now everybody's like, all right, how do I get the book? How do I learn more about what Mike does? How do I get Mike to coach me? Will he coach me? I've never done a deal. So what's the pathway look like for people that want your help?
Totally. So if you want the book, it's sort of over my shoulder here. It's called Level Jumping. You can get it on Amazon. You can go to my website, which is mikesimmons.com. You can get it there too. Either way, the coaching program that I created is called 7-Figure Investor. And so it's 7figureinvestor.com. It's the word 7, not the number. So the word 7 spelled out, 7figureinvestor.com. You can go there. It's 4 weeks. It's intensive. I mean, some of these sessions that we do last 2.5, 3 hours. Like, it's long, and I'm pouring into it. But it is enough. It is plenty enough for you to build a company that can produce a 7-figure result within 12 months. Like, the whole goal is to get you to do what I did, right? I did it in 12 months. So can you. And by the way, I did it in 12 months, and I'm not going to lie. I made mistakes in that 7 months. It wasn't perfect, right? And so I have just like Iron Man, right? He gets that first version of his suit. Something goes wrong. It ices up when he goes too high. He makes Mach 4, Mach 3, Mach 2, whatever it is, right? And so I've created a different version here that is what I did, but just so much better. And anyone can do it. I'm not special. I was an average student, right? I got C's and B's. Like, I was just okay. I was an athlete, but I wasn't the captain of the football team, right? I was on the team. I played second string. Like, I'm a regular person. I don't have any privileges. I'm 5'8". I'm not super tall. Like, so it's like, there's nothing about me that you should look at and go, well, him, but not me. No, not at all. Anyone can do it. And I want to show you how to do it. What I'm passionate about is getting people out of their own way, eliminating all the excuses, and giving them every tool they need to succeed. And by the way, during the program, I make myself available without limitation. There's no reason for you not to succeed other than you just don't want to, right? That's the only reason you wouldn't succeed. And I'm going to eliminate every other reason.
I love that. So folks, we're going to put all those links, and you really got to check his website out. It's really good, folks. Get there. It tells everything that you would need, how to start. It's a great client pathway. And I think a lot of people, don't have that, where there's just a clear direction of how you go from nothing to 7 figures. And Mike, you've really figured that out. And I want to thank you for your time. Last question I have for you is, on this journey of just over 10 years, what's been your biggest external obstacle you've had to face?
The biggest external obstacle, it was, boy, it's a good, I had a couple. I'll go back more than 10 years. I'll tell you, I'll give you an example of what stopped me in the first 5 years. And I regret it. And it's a little bit personal. So I guess hopefully that's fine. But, I went through a divorce between 2003, 2008. I was going through divorce, and I also allowed that to stop me. And to be perfectly honest, I have an abundance mentality now. I give away, like you do. I give away all my best stuff. Like, I train people to do real estate in my market. I give them my documents. I give them my, I don't care. You can come into my market. I'll show you how to do what I do. Like, I don't care about competition, but I had a real limiting mindset back then. And it kind of kept me from wanting to be successful, because I knew that success would be transferred to somebody who wasn't my favorite person anymore. Just dumb stuff like that. I just had a real limiting beliefs and just a mindset that didn't allow me to see the abundance in the world and realize that, there's more than enough for everybody. And I hope everybody does well and is great. And so that was probably my biggest external obstacle. Other than that, I had a supportive wife. My kids were great. Leaving my job was a hurdle, but honestly, I made more day one the minute I left my job. Like, I instantly became more wealthy after leaving my job, because it was in my way. Like, that was an obstacle. My job was an obstacle because it allowed me to free up 8 hours of my day that I didn't previously have. And I was already matching my income, doing it as a side hustle. When I quit, it was like, wait a minute, I actually have extra time on my hands here, and I can still crush it. So Yeah, just stupid personal limiting beliefs, a little pettiness, all the little like angers and things that come along with relationships ending and all that stuff. I had that. And then, like I said, my job was in my way, frankly. And I let that be in my way too long because I mentioned my wife's real financially, she's a little bit nervous. And so leaving my job scared her. I probably would have left a few years earlier, but I made a lot of mistakes in those years that I stayed in my job. So maybe not the worst thing that someone was tapping the brakes, but yeah, man, I think right now for most people, your job is in your way, but you're working for the next paycheck. You said it, right? Everybody thinks about like, I just got to work for that next paycheck. And as long as you have that mentality, you're stuck. You're going to stay right where you are. You've got to be able to think long term, and it can work. You just gotta do it, man.
So folks, as we wrap this episode, it's been amazing. Lots of golden nuggets. Remember, get the books for free. Just go to chrisnaugle.com. We're going to put Mike's link up there so you can get his book and you can get all his stuff and information. And I urge you to take action on that because it's not the knowledge you just got. You might be entertained. You might be like, oh, that sounds so good. Now take some effing action and go out there and do something, folks. That's what it takes. You've been lied to your entire life, folks. Your entire life. You've been lied that your hour has a monetary value. $20 an hour, $50 an hour, $100 an hour, $500 an hour. And you've climbed this false belief of thinking that hour holds some monetary value. That is exactly that kept you trapped and kept you from getting where you need to be because your hour that you have is priceless. And until you realize that how priceless your hour is, you're on the rat race. Keep going around in that hamster wheel. Or just get yourself a hamster and watch it because you're doing the same thing in a different context. Folks, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Go out there, look up Mike's stuff, and take some action, and your life will change. See you next episode.